Hello everybody, welcome back to Red Tool House. In this video I was going to show how we're going to put the broilers out in pasture with the chicken tractors that we have completed. But since we've had a lot of rain the past 36 hours, I don't have all my tractors done. I've got one completely done, just got to put the tarp on it and put the water in. And then back here I've got this one put together, so it needs wire and it needs the conduit bent and the door built. And then the third one isn't even assembled yet. It's still just in the 4 components. So, in lieu of that, I am going to respond to a question that was sent to me via our website, redtoolhouse.com, pertaining to our Cornish cross and how we've raised chickens in the past. So I got an email from Michael, and Michael says, in episode 30, you discussed the Cornish cross, but we're going to process the Rangers a week or 2 later. I was hoping you could do a video on that discussing it. Based purely on my feelings, I believe I would rather raise Rangers for meat. Economically, I believe the Cornish cross is probably a better investment, but for my own soul, I'm thinking the Rangers are the way to go. If we go back, he's referring to episode 30, which is way back. Actually, it was about this time last year, maybe even a little older. But we did a kind of a test where we raised 15 Cornish cross and 15 Red Rangers. We had them in the same tractor and just kind of went through the whole process there to see how they were going to turn out. Episode 30 details all of that as far as the results of the Cornish cross, because at week 10 we butchered our Cornish cross and 1 Red Ranger to see how they stacked up. And we grabbed the largest Red Ranger we had, visibly largest. You could just see, okay, this is the big boy, we're going to take him and use as the test. So that video details the results of that test and how we've come to the conclusion that we like the Cornish cross. What we didn't do, and I apologize, I realized afterwards I didn't follow up with the Red Ranger processing, but it was actually 4 weeks later. We went a full 4 weeks later before we processed the Red Rangers. So at that point they were 14 weeks old. And so we processed all of those. I believe we had 13 or 14 of those alive. So we processed all of those, and their average weights were about the same. They were around that 4.5, 4.2 to 4.6. About 4.5 is where I think the median was. So to answer Michael's question, I'm sure he's looking at the Red Ranger saying, well, I like the way the Red Ranger looks, it's conformation, seems to have a better personality. People seem to like that idea better than the Cornish cross. People kind of see the Cornish cross as Franken chicken, and I don't want to put words in his mouth, but I wonder if that's where he's going. He recognizes that the Cornish cross is more economical with feed conversion and growth rate, but feels for his soul, he said, raising the Red Ranger is what he preferred to do. And I totally get that. When you look at the Red Ranger, it's very chicken-like. It looks like a chicken. The Cornish cross kind of looks like a Goliath animal, kind of fumbling around at times. So I'll address some points that he wanted me to address. Well, there's really about 7 takeaways from our comparison of Cornish cross to Red Rangers as it pertains to the Red Rangers exclusively. Again, as I mentioned, it took us 4 more weeks to get them up to the weight of the Cornish cross, that 4.5 pounds dressed out. When they were just by themselves in the tractor, again, dosing the same amount of feed, they were still consuming it, so there really wasn't any back off of feed. Maybe I could have backed off a little, but I don't think I would have had that weight as well. So we still had the same amount of feed being consumed there as I was feeding out prior to. Michael is correct. The mortality rate in the Cornish cross was higher. We lost more. We had some, I think we lost 2 that just developed some leg issues and had to be culled. We had some, I think 2 loss in the brooder. We actually had 1 Red Ranger lost in the brooder as well. But the Cornish cross in general did have a higher mortality rate. They did have more health issues, leg issues, neck issues. So we did have additional loss there. Well, at the end of processing our Red Rangers, we did a unscientific blind taste test. Kelly made 2 birds. She made a Cornish cross and she made a Red Ranger, cooked them the exact same way. She knew which was which, but she let the boys and I kind of do a blind taste test to see what we thought. It was pretty much unanimous. The boys and I felt that we couldn't tell the difference. Both tasted really, really good. Good flavor, the color was the same, the texture was the same. So there wasn't a big striking difference to say, ooh, that's a Red Ranger. I would definitely prefer that, or ooh, that's a Cornish cross, I definitely would prefer that. So it really wasn't much of a difference there. One thing I noticed when we were right at the point of processing the Red Rangers is they were now at week 14. And as you know with chickens, maybe you're aware, but around 14, week 14 is when the boys start to feel their comeuppance. You know, the roosters started maturing. So we started having crowing and all of the things that go along with that. And I've never experienced it myself. Maybe it's a wives' tale, but I've heard people say that once a rooster starts crowing, the hormones, all those things can affect the flavor of the meat, the texture of the meat. Again, I can't attest to that. I've not run into that before, but that's something to consider. If you're going to raise a Red Ranger and you let it hang around that long, then as it gets into maturity, there could be an issue there. Again, I haven't experienced that personally. One thing I did notice about the Red Rangers that I liked, I didn't really allow them to do it, but the Red Rangers would have roosted in the chicken tractors. If I had put a roosting bar in our chicken tractor last year, then the Red Rangers actually would have jumped up on there and roosted. They, again, being more chicken-like. They have more of a chicken personality, whereas the Cornish cross just kind of hang out on the ground, and you see them get dirty. They're a white chicken, so their bodies get dirty. They just don't look very sexy. It's like if you show your customers, like, hey, here's what I'm about to feed you, and it's, you've got a muddy belly, and it just doesn't look very attractive. So if you're going for aesthetics, then the Red Ranger could obviously get up on the roost and stay out of the muck there. One thing I noticed with the Red Rangers is they didn't forage exponentially more than the Cornish cross did. So imagine, you know, we had the chicken tractor, this size chicken tractor with our Cornish cross and Red Rangers in it. So when we took all the Cornish cross out to process and just had Red Rangers left, it wasn't like the ground was picked any cleaner. It wasn't like the grass was eaten down more or less, or some of the stuff that may have been passed over was eaten. It pretty much looked the same. So as I'd move the tractor each day, the wear and tear on the grass was pretty much the same. So they didn't really seem to forage more. Now, that being said, I think if somebody was going to raise Red Rangers for meat and they put them in a larger open pasture, say a free range type of thing, which I don't recommend if you've got predator issues, but maybe a large electrified poultry netting setup where the Red Rangers could work themselves around and find bugs and scratch and do all that type of stuff more, maybe have more range there, then maybe they would have foraged more and put on a little more weight naturally versus having to rely on that feed. I don't know, that's just complete theory. But they seem to be more mobile, of course, more active, walking around more. So a larger pasture may have been better for them. I think of like Joel Salatin's, the way he has his eggmobile set up, where he just has the movable station, you know, the coop, if you will, where the eggs are laid, but then has a very large electrified poultry netting area around that moves. And so those chickens get the ability to walk around. And maybe that would have been better for the Red Rangers instead of being centralized in this type of tractor. Well, Michael, I hope that answers your question. I appreciate your input, appreciate your questions. Again, if anybody has any questions, you can obviously leave a comment below. I'm trying to get to those. There's a lot of comments been stacking up, so I apologize if I have not responded. And quite frankly, I don't get notifications of every comment. The comments are coming in so much that it's like YouTube just kind of sends me a notice of maybe every third or every fifth. It just seems kind of weird. So I'm not ignoring you. I'm trying to get to all the comments, but if I overlook something, I apologize. So if you really want to ask me a key question or you would like a definite response, just go to redtoolhouse.com, click the contact link. You'll see our little form there. You can just drop in your name and drop in your question or your comment, and that way I'll definitely see it and can respond accordingly. Well, I hope you like this video. Give it a thumbs up. We'll hopefully in the future get to showing us putting these out on pasture and tracking the success there. And if you haven't yet, be sure to subscribe. And again, be sure to check us out Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Every afternoon at 4:30 is when we release a new video. All right, take care, everybody.